Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can we get organized? Give you a minute to sit down and get comfortable. Okay, my name is Harold Spring. I'm the moderator for the evening. I'm not the speaker, so don't pick on me tonight. And first of all, I'd like to welcome you all here on behalf of the Driftwood to the All Candidates Night. This is the first of two sponsored by the Driftwood, as you know. I'll just lay out the rules of procedure first, better known as the rules of combat, especially in Fulford. Each speaker will have a 2-minute period to make his initial speech, and we have drawn lots to determine the order. And we'll hear from the trust people first, the trust candidates, and then from the CRD candidates. After the initial speeches, we'll open the microphones to the audience. There's one on my right, or left-hand side rather, your right, for the CRD, and one for the trust on the other side of the room. And I will alternate between the microphones to take the questions. The questions should be concise and clear, and as I say, you have 30 seconds to ask a question. The questions can be addressed to a particular candidate, or they could be addressed to all candidates. In other words, each candidate would then take a crack at answering the question. The candidates will have 1 minute for each question. So if it's a question directed to one candidate, it would be 1 minute to deal with the question. If it goes to all 12, obviously it will take 12 minutes. Okay, or less, not more. We have a timekeeper, and there'll be a very abrupt cutoff if anybody goes over time. And that's not my doing. Also, if there's if somebody wants to ask a supplementary question of a candidate, then it's, I guess, a matter of judgment as to whether that would be permissible or not. Normally, it'd be one question per candidate at a time. And you have to ask the questions from the microphone. When the candidates speak, because it's a big room and there are quite a few people in the back, the candidate will stand up and possibly, if it's helpful, move over a bit so that have a better line of sight with everybody. The one point I'd like to make, I've been in politics myself, and I would ask that everybody show respect for the candidates who are putting their names forward. It's kind of like treading where angels fear to tread sometimes. And I give them credit, I wouldn't do it. First of all, I'd like to introduce the candidates for the Islands Trust, and this will be in order of when they speak. Okay, so George Rams.
Hello, everyone.
Dave Borman. Carol Dobbs. Peter Grove. And Larry Woods. And Mark Wyatt. And I would point out, 3 years ago I wrote a letter to the editor in the Driftwood suggesting that we dig a couple of trenches in the Fulford Valley and the Ganges Valley and make 3 islands. Then we would have had 6 seats on Trust Council. They've all been acclaimed and could all go home early. Didn't work. And the candidates for the CRD, Garth Henry, Leslie Wallace, Dietrich Ruth, right in the corner. Wayne McIntyre. Good evening. Carol Isles. And Ken Lee.
Good evening.
Okay, without further ado then, we will start with the 2-minute speeches from each candidate, starting with the Trust and George Grant.
The reasons I'm running. The problems we face on Ireland are well known. There were issues at the last election, and many of them at the election before that. Poor governance, inefficiency, dysfunction, fiscal waste, a mushrooming trust budget, 67% in 5 years. Trustees who refuse to support our economy. An example of that is over 40,000 at the Climate Action Council and to the Water Council, and not 1 cent to the Chamber of Commerce in all the years the Trust has been in power. A dearth of affordable housing, although studies undertaken for the past decade, problems with water quality, increasingly overburdening legislation that we saw in RAR that erodes our rights and freedoms, and deep divisions within our community. So if we can identify the problems, why haven't we been able to solve them? Well, I think they're the symptoms of a larger problem, and that's an Islands Trust and a local trust committee that have both lost direction. The Trust in recent times has expended a great deal of effort in self-promotion and self-preservation, and that's time and money that could have been spent in preserving and protecting our environment and its amenities. Their need for doing so, 2 surveys indicate that a majority of island residents now support incorporation. The Trust has lost popular support. The Trust mantra is now placed before people. Trustees and candidates on Salt Spring and other islands openly declare the role is not to represent island residents, but to advance the aims of the Trust. They happen to be both. That position is a direct challenge to the principles of democratic rule, and it's in contravention with Clause 6.1 of the Islands Trust Act. Thank you.
Next candidate will be Dave Bourne.
Thanks, Harold. Well, it's good to be down here in Valdy's living room. It was here that the gumboots thundered to celebrate the $13.5 million purchase of conservation land in Burgoyne Valley 10 years ago. It was one of the best moments of my career in office, and it brought us all together. Now we live in divisive times. Every candidate on this panel has been asked if they are crazy to run for office. If crazy means intoxicated with the beauty of this island and enthralled with the endless creativity of the people, then count me fit for office. You need to know where I stand on issues before you cast your vote. On restructure, I support a provincially funded restructure study leading to a referendum on incorporation. On riparian area regulations, I am committed to an open process involving the whole community and leading to a Made on Salt Spring RAR bylaw. On affordable housing, we are poised to legalize suites and cottages. While working on the APC, I advocated for the widest possible liberalization of the rules, which still respects water districts and neighbors and neighborhoods which may not want an increase in the demands placed on them. My vision for the island is positive, participatory community which rejoices in the immense human and natural resources available to us. I believe that view is shared by most islanders, and bolstered by my experience, I will come fresh to the job of realizing this vision. Thank you.
Harold Dodd.
Oops, wrong glasses. Hi, I'm Carol Dodd. I'm a West Coast gal. I grew up in Langley. My kids grew up in Delta. And I spent the last 19 years of my career in Toronto because that's where the work was. I retired to Salt Spring in 1999, and I have worked on Salt Spring for about 3 years as the business manager at Greenwoods. 5 reasons to vote for me. I'm independent. I'm beholden to no one. As a trustee, I will work for the betterment of all Salt Springers, not those with a particular view. That said, I know that I can work companionably with any of the 5 gentlemen that are up here with me. I will always seek consensus in decision making. I will research and listen to all points of view. The best overall outcomes are always those in which everyone has input. I'll always seek that input, but I'm not afraid to make a decision when one is required. I understand small business and finance. Having spent my career in the practical aspects of business and finance, I understand what it takes to maintain a vibrant community. I believe in the Islands Trust and its mandate. Land use is the primary function of the Trust. In making land use decisions, however, there are a couple of things that are absolutely intertwined with it. And those two, two that head the list are both adequate water and affordable housing for each person in our community. Preserve and protect both the place and the people. And I believe that we urgently need a provincial government study. I've really been saddened by the polarization and divisiveness in our community. Check out my blog, caroldoddfortrust.com. Thanks.
Next candidate, Peter Grove.
Good evening. I'm a mediator, and I'm committed to helping end our toxic political environment. I'm also an arbitrator, and I'm used to making tough decisions. And I'm a chartered accountant, and how our money is spent is important to me. I support a government study in governance in order to establish the facts. And here's what I would like to see happen within the Trust. The development application process needs to be reviewed and streamlined. I want to look at the Trust's operating costs. I want a Trust which is not hamstrung by its bureaucracy. I want a Trust that deals with land use issues fairly and expeditiously. I'd like to see the barriers to light industrial land use removed, but only those which the community agrees are beneficial. We need a Trust with a can-do attitude, a Trust that fosters a climate with innovative ideas, where innovative ideas are welcomed. This is especially important when we look at the issues such as affordable housing and job creation opportunities which will stimulate the local economy. I believe it's crucial to have the same can-do commitment when, as trustees, we fulfill our obligations to preserve and protect the island's eco-diversity and its unique land and water habitats, as well as its people. I want a Trust that honours and helps promote the island's agricultural base. This means supporting the local initiatives such as the abattoir and the food processing plant, and encouraging the development of farm produce. I am a non-aligned candidate. That means I have no partisan affiliations. I don't promote the position of one group above another. It means I will listen and consider without prejudice the views of all islanders. The bottom line is I want to see this community thrive and the natural beauty of the island preserved. If elected, I pledge to work full-time to achieve those ends. Thank you.
Next candidate, Larry Woods.
Good evening, and thank you to the organizers of this forum. I am from Fulford, of Fulford, and for Fulford, having lived here for a decade and having spent several years as a member of the Friends of Fulford and later of the Fulford Study Group. Did I mention that I work here too? As a cheesemaker at Salt Spring Island Cheese, where we like to say that we make the best darn goat cheese on Salt Spring. So I have deep roots here in Fulford and am intimately familiar with the issues challenging this community, issues that will be among my priorities during my term as your trustee. My campaign, dedicated as it is to Margaret and Martin Day, your own Margaret and Martin Day, and launched at a meet and greet here last Monday, also has Fulford roots. I proudly support the Preserve and Protect mandate of the Trust and admire and respect the efforts of all previous trustees in representing Salt Spring, as Carol said, both the people and the place. I value the efforts of various advisory committees and councils working with the Trust and will encourage Salt Springers to continue giving of their time and talents in these ways. This said, I strongly believe that the Trust must be a learning organization and that it must certainly seek to continue to improve the way it communicates and works with islanders. I will make careful land use decisions, keeping as a priority the protection of neighborhoods and the need to build a community consensus to support any changes. I will collaborate with our elected CRD director on matters of mutual interest to our constituents. I thank you all for coming this evening. It is a pleasure to see so many familiar and friendly faces in the audience, and I am truly excited by the opportunity to work for and with you. Cheese be with you, and vive la Fulford Liebe. Thank you.
Next candidate, Mark Wyatt.
Good evening. Gil Mowat said I should smile because I don't smile very much, so I'll make an effort to do that throughout the course of the evening, but if I'm not smiling, please don't take it personally. There's a common denominator here. I think we all love Salt Spring. Some of us moved here 5, 10 years ago. I moved here 10 years ago. Some of you have been here your whole lives. Some are happy with the way things are. A lot of people aren't. But I think everybody up here is doing this for the same reason. They want to build a better Salt Spring, build a better community. I have 2 boys in Fernwood School in grades 3 and 4. And I tell you, I'm concerned about where we're going to be in the next 20 years if some things don't change here. We're driving businesses off the island, companies like Salt Spring Coffee, who really, we should have been able to find a place for them, and they shouldn't have gone through the process of spending $200,000 and the trust spending some $100 and some odd $1,000 just to be told that urban sprawl was the wrong thing. That process should have been streamlined. The problems with the location should have been identified first and foremost 3 months into the project, and a better location should have been found for them. We need green businesses like that on Salt Spring. We can work together to develop a deep green economy that promotes good business opportunities, that develops a stronger economy, and that creates opportunities for young people on this island. We can find places for recreational property. We need to be able to put people and place on equal footing rather than just having place before people. George and I are running as a slate. Everybody else is independent, and I've been asked, why are we running as a slate? Well, we have a goal. Well, we have many goals. You'll find them on our website at bettersaltspring.com. If you elect 2 candidates who are diverse in their opportunities or in their philosophies, and they're not going to agree on everything, your decisions are going to be made by somebody off island. If you vote for George and I can promise you one thing. We will not be the voice of the Islands Trust for Salt Spring. We will be the voice of Salt Spring for the Islands Trust. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that completes the introductory speeches from the candidates for the Islands Trust. And we'll hear now from the candidates for the Capital Regional District, starting with the incumbent, Gareth Hinton.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to speak this evening. In November of 2009, I made 2 promises to the community. 1, to support a governance study, and 2, the building of a new library. Once in office, I saw there was much more to do than that. Let's be honest, I had inherited quite a mess with our water systems. The CRE made some bad decisions as far back as 2002 when the process of upgrading started. I worked to help prevent future errors. Project management is now mandatory, and better management and financial reporting practices are in place. Turning to transit, during the past 3 years, we have drastically increased our transit service. Early in the spring of 2012, we will see the construction of sidewalks and bike lanes stretching from Country Grocer to the corner of Upper and Lower Ganges. Housing, I established a housing council in the spring of 2011. The school district donated the land, the CRD will act as the agent, and the council will determine the kinds of housing required. We have upgraded and expanded our trails, including Channel Ridge, Trincomalee Heights, and Reginald Hill. In the economy, we set up the Community Economic Development Commission. Their mandate is to determine the economic current economic and social health of our community, assess the future economic aspirations of our community, and develop a strategy to put them in place. That's my record of service. And what do I do if I'm elected next? I will support the investigation and establishment of a handy-dart service for Salt Spring. I will help our Transportation Commission to gain authority over our roads. I will work to establish a unitary authority involving our public water bodies. I will update our bike path plans through shovel-ready projects across Salt Spring. I will maintain a no tax increase policy for the service coming under the authority of the CRD. I will campaign for governance study to be undertaken by the Ministry of Community Development, and I will continue to work for a sustainable community, environmentally, socially, and economically. Thank you.
Next candidate for the CRD, Leslie Wallace.
Good evening, everybody. Fellow Islanders, I am running for CRD Director for Salt Spring because I want to give back to this community that has given so much to me. If elected, I pledge to do my best to serve all Islanders. I will listen to you. I will be accountable to you. I will put the needs of the long-term needs of the community at large ahead of the needs of any one group. I'm also running because I have a vision for the island, and I think that this vision might be something that's shared by many of you here. I see Salt Spring which is easier and more enjoyable to walk, hike, and bike around, with a dedicated Fulford to Vesuvius bike lane and car traffic diverted around a new Ganges pedestrian mall. That's mall in quotation marks. I see a Salt Spring that is affordable and meets the needs of young families as well as retirees. I see a more vibrant and diverse local economy that reflects our unique island culture. I see a Salt Spring where the majority of the food we consume is grown right here on Salt Spring. I see a Salt Spring with respectful, collaborative processes in place for working out our differences and turning community challenges into opportunities. Citizens reference panels have been used successfully to build consensus in a number of divided Canadian communities. If elected, once I hear from the various CRD commissions and other groups on the island as to the needs in the community and their associated costs, I will assemble a citizens reference panel to advise me on setting local CRD priorities for the next 5 years, and I will have no hand in who gets to be on that panel. I guess that's my time.
The next candidate for the CRD, Dietrich Ruth.
I guess some of you have seen me before here. Last time I was a director between 93 and 96. Can you hear all? Good. And I learned there that the island often gets a short shrift when it comes to the requisite attention that we need from their engineering department and there are other associated services which deal with the parts that are normally dealt with by a council. So to compensate for the light weight of the electoral areas and contradistinction of the municipalities that are on the 21-member board, you basically have to use some ingenuity to get their attention. And the way I did this was that, by the way, most of the issues that you're dealing with over there as a director actually have nothing to do with the island. The way I did it was I would research those issues that I disagreed with, preferably in the law library at UVic, and then provide a legal opinion for the directors at the next board meeting. That often took care of a problem where it was a nuisance to have somebody disagree, even if it was an eviction in Souk or someplace like that. It was also one on the island that I dealt with, but that was in the regular court. So you have to be a street lawyer there so that you don't become the clerk of the board. That's very important. Otherwise we'll get situations like the boondoggles in the water department. which, by the way, need to be rectified, and the requisite legal precedents have to be researched, and then they got to be asked to pay up where the damage is, because this is a disgrace what's happened to the local community in Fulford. I mean, I have no words for that, and there's one reason I decided I'd have to get into the action again. You know, you got to wield a stick sometimes. It's just the way it goes.
Next candidate, Wayne McIntyre.
Good evening. I have a lot of business experience from large corporations to individual, but I've always been a community volunteer. I'm on the Salt Spring Community Economic Development Commission as the Vice Chair, Lady Mento Hospital Foundation Board, and I do a lot of work for the Gulf Island Spinning Mill. Why am I running? To me, it is simple. I love living here, and I want to make a positive contribution to the community. And I have these skills and experience to do so, with your input. We need prudent management of your tax dollars. It's essential and overdue. Basic budget and projects need to be treated a little bit differently. I will treat your tax dollars as investments in our community, not expenditures. Economic development, focus on green opportunities. Push for completion of the Salt Spring Community Economic Development Strategy and project opportunities. Affordable housing, look at innovative green projects. Water management, we're drowning in bureaucracy and problems. Unfortunately, there's a drought in finding solutions. Insist on well-defined project management plans with contingencies, risk management, and accountabilities. No repeats or surprises. Governance, time for review. There's nothing to lose. We need the information on pros and cons to make informed decisions. Platforms need substance. I have the experience in the substance. I've had hands-on in all my platform areas. I make things happen. Strong fiscal management skills with business and public funds. I've turned around a couple of not-for-profit organizations. I was an elected councillor in the village of Lions Bay, and I had responsibility with the Public Works Department for water management, quality, quantity, and distribution. We also had a system upgrade of the Brunswick Beach area of Lions Bay. It came in on time and on budget, done with a government grant. I have community experience in all sustainability areas, economic, social, and environmental. I have direct experience and skills with all levels of government contact. I'm a proven leader in both business and public life. Thank you.
Next candidate, Carol Isles.
Thank you. With due deference to my other candidates, I think I'm the best candidate for the position of Salt Spring Island Director to the CRD. Because of the suite of skills I have developed as a writer, a business person, a landlord, a librarian, and a teacher. I'm responsible, accountable, and capable of effectively working on a number of projects simultaneously. I'm also a good listener, and I believe in fostering an atmosphere of cooperation and collegiality so that we can agree and disagree on the basis of information rather than personalities or political agendas. As I have been retired from teaching for 4 years, I have the time to devote to the position, which I consider to be a full-time job. With 12 service areas and 14 separate commissions, there are many meetings to attend and a lot of people and groups to consult with. Many of these services require coordination with other levels of government. This simply cannot be done effectively part-time. If I am elected, I will do my best to listen to Islanders and understand your concerns, to provide monthly updates, to consult with other agencies, including BC Ferries. From my discussions with people to date, I see 5 key areas that are most in need of attention: the hospital, water and waste management, transportation, affordable housing, and parks and recreation. I'd be happy to discuss them in more detail with anyone who is interested. Many of the service activities undertaken by the CRD overlap in some way the efforts of the local trust committee. It makes sense for trustees and CRD director to have regular meetings and find ways to work together. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. If you elect me as CRD director, I will do my best to represent you to the CRD rather than the CRD to Salt Spring. November 19th is your chance to have a say in how you want your community to move forward. I would be honored to act as your representative.
The next candidate, Ken Lee.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, fellow candidates, let me begin by thanking Tony Richards and the Driftwood for arranging this event. I've lived in the Fulford area for 17 of my 20 years on Salt Spring, and it's good to be back here tonight. For those who don't know me, my website is kenleyforcrd.com. If elected, I offer strong, hands-on leadership. It's been said that politicians slide further on bullshit than gravel. I've always preferred to slide on gravel. While living at the South End, I served as a school trustee and was involved in renovation and expansion of the Fulford Elementary School, now one of the prettiest elementary schools in British Columbia. As a fire district trustee, I pressed for the installation of a dry fire hydrant at Western Lake, for which fire tankers can now replenish during an emergency. Being a keen lake swimmer, I organised and assisted in the rebuilding of the new swimmer floats at Weston and Stowe Lakes. That was a big deal. As a BC Ferry stakeholder, I led the Fulford Tea Party protest that resulted in the freezing of unacceptable ferry fare increases by our Premier. As chairman of Sisipora, the South Salt Spring Island Property Owner Residents Association, I worked with my executive, the Trust and the CRD in resolving the Freedom Village issue and subsequent beach cleanups. During the past 2 years, Ashley Hilliard and I successfully negotiated a public-private partnership between the federal government and Shaw Cable System. This partnership is bringing much-needed high-speed internet service to the Beaver Point area, and I'm very proud of that. It's supposed to be complete by this December. Having served as an alderman on a council in Ontario, I'm convinced that the complexities of governing Salt Spring can best be done by an elected mayor and council. This model was actually approved and voted for by our early island pioneers in 1883. They voted and got a council. I love our beautiful island, and I ask for your vote on November the 19th. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that completes the introductory speeches from the 12 candidates. So we'll now open the floor to questions from the floor. As I said, we have 2 microphones, one for the Trust, one for the CRD. Make sure you go to the right one. And you'll have 30 seconds to answer, or to ask the question rather. Each candidate gets a minute to answer. And keep in mind that if you want to address your question to all the candidates, indicate so, and each will have a chance to respond. So we're open to questions from the floor. First one on the Trust stand.
I'm asking this question on behalf of all of those currently serving as commissioners on the park board. There's a very serious shortage of playing fields suitable for soccer and baseball on Salt Spring. The maximum of 20 acres needed for these fields would almost certainly have to come from land currently in the agricultural land reserve. Although the park board agrees land should not be taken out of the ALR without good reason, we believe providing additional playing fields is good reason enough. We would like to know if each of the 6 candidates for Trust agrees with us.
I will ask the candidates for the Islands Trust to respond.
I agree wholeheartedly. If we look at the example in Furness Road, there was a proposal by Parks to convert that or turn some of that land into utility land for playing fields. We've a density in this island of 5 acres per person, but we can't find 2 acres for kids to have a full-size baseball diamond. Something's far wrong. We are supposed to be preserving and protecting and amenities, but we've precious few amenities. Decent facilities for the people who live and work here are essential. We earnestly want to preserve and protect our natural environment, but we also need a life. And balance is absent at the moment. We need much more balance in terms of community, in terms of culture, in terms of sports, as well as the natural preservation and protection of the natural environment.
The community plan has, for more than a decade now, specified that sports fields in the southern part of Salt Spring Island are a community amenity, much to be sought after. So indeed, I would support the proposition. Thank you.
What they said. I would support it. Thank you.
If it's been in the community plan for more than a decade, how come it's taken 10 years to make it happen? That's what's happening a lot on this island is we keep doing study after study after study, or we keep saying, yes, it should be there, but nobody ever takes action and actually makes it happen. I play ball on this island. We have 2 fields opposite the Fulford Fire Hall that are leased to the CRD for $17,000 a year, and we use them 3 to 4 months a year. And they're crappy fields, but they're the best that we've got. And yet we find a place where we can put good community fields. And, you know, I appreciate the fact that wherever we're going to do anything development-wise, there are neighbors who are going to object to it for one reason or another. But at some point, somebody has to look at the entire community rather than just the people that live next door and make some strong decisions that are best for this community. I've got kids growing up on this island. Lots of people do. I've got lots of friends that are young families who are leaving this island for better opportunities because we don't have the amenities here that we need for families. I totally support what you're doing.
And I would like to echo that. I'd certainly support it. Thank you.
Stan, I think it looks like we're all going to be working on this file. Okay, thank you.
From your mouth to God's ears.
You got it. Thanks for the question.
I think maybe we should have a ruling here that if a question is asked of the entire 6 candidates, that we respond in the same order that you initially spoke. That'll save people jumping up together. Next question from the trust side, or from the CRD side.
Well, I'm at the CRD side. I'm Pat Preston, and I'm here on behalf of the Salt Spring Arts Council. I really address to everyone, but I will take whoever's answer I can get. I'm sure you've all had the questions and you're going to respond, but I'm asking something publicly. At a time when economic recovery and employment are at the forefront of our local economy, the importance and necessity of investing in the arts becomes apparent. The arts not only enhance the quality of life on Salt Spring, but also play a major role in our ability to thrive economically. Arts and culture are significant contributors to the local economy and to enhancing the quality of life. What role do you see that the Arts Council and the arts have in enhancing economic development on the island?
I leave that to any candidate willing to answer both sides.
I didn't hear what you said. What can we do? Well, there's a whole bunch of things we can do. First, I don't even really know where to start, but I've only got a minute. So one of the pieces, and I'm going to go back to the Community Development Commission. The mandate of that commission, as I said earlier, is to look at the state of the community, both economically and socially, put together, consult with the community itself, put together a plan as a result of that to make our community a better place economically and socially. The arts community actually has to weigh in on that particular piece itself, okay? The other thing, there's other things I would like to see happen. As you know, in our community, there's some appetite for putting together an art school on the community. I would certainly I see the great need for that. Now, does that actually pay the food bills for the various artists? Well, not all of them, but some of those people would work as teachers in that particular institution. I see a need for that institution for that kind of reason. Okay, stop.
We talked about this the other morning on the phone, and I did bring up something that maybe Garth and Stanley should listen to. There used to be a 1% rule in Canada. If a public building is built, the architect should make sure that 1% of the cost of that building is invested in local art, so that when the building opens, it's a beautiful place, and it reflects the artistic talents that are in that community. We have a new library coming up. Why don't we apply the 1% rule to that? And the other thing that I'd like to mention is, I spend a lot of time in Banff and at the Banff Centre. It's a very desirable tourist destination, just as this island is. I don't see why we couldn't develop a Banff Centre and employ the skills of our artists year-round in giving seminars and so on. Maybe Bullock Lake would be a good place. Thank you.
Any other candidates like to respond?
Yeah,
I got something to say on that.
My understanding is that we're to respond in the order that we spoke in. Is that correct?
What complicates it this time is that we're dealing with both sides of the table, so go ahead.
Okay. I did not receive your questions, actually, Pat, and I did call Gail Driftwood, actually, and sent you an email saying I didn't get your questions. So, okay, thank you for sending them. The arts really are overlooked here, and yet, in terms of government support, and yet you're such an important part of our economy and such an important part of why people come to Salt Spring in the first place. Stephanie Dens, the Arts Council, was one of the first people in the community that I spoke to. Just a couple of weeks before I declared, asking her what she thought the CRD director's priorities needed to be in this area in the next term. And I certainly would consider opting us into the CRD Arts Development Service so that you can have some kind of, operating funding.
The arts element of the arts community that is really hurting are actually the dance instructors. They don't have any decent place to train their kids, and it's the best kind of training you can do at that early age. So that's where the need is, as far as I have heard today. I haven't heard anything from any other parties in the arts community. Certainly the performing arts are operating, and the display arts seem to have their stuff up, but the dance people, they're left hanging. Thank you.
Wayne?
For those on the Salt Spring Community Economic Development Commission, they know that I'm a real advocate for tourism. I'm the one that's been pushing a lot of things, and I think the arts and culture is a fantastic opportunity. The CRD study that said $170 million for the value to this area. The Salt Spring brand is out of the ordinary. Part of the way it becomes out of the ordinary is the arts and culture community. I think there's great opportunities for certain types of tourism. There's conference opportunities for the arts. I'm a full supporter for that. We've got some incredible artists on the island, and it's a great attraction for people to come over and learn from these people. Thank you.
Pat, you have my answers. I sent them to you already, and they're posted on my website at carolisles.wordpress.com. And certainly, the arts are incredibly important. I was recommending that we need somebody to organize art weeks, art weekends, where we do workshops and instruction, and we tap into BC Ferry's desire to become a travel agent and get them to promote it for us and include the ferry fair and the magical ferry trip and bring people to Salt Spring to explore what we do have here. And I think that's very doable. Thank you.
Would any other candidate like to respond to that?
Can I say something more?
Supplementary?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the library thing. The library budget for arts is 1% of their soft and hard costs of it, so that's around $70,000, I believe. They haven't expended it. They're establishing a committee in January of 2012 to look at projects both for sculpture and for interior work to be put up in the library when it opens.
I think Pat, that answers your questions. Next question from the other side of the room.
This question is to all the members or the candidates for the trust. Two questions. What is your position on the location of a new fire hall at Brinkworthy, and how would you expedite the currently protracted and ridiculous process of trying to get permits, etc., rezoning and exemption or permission for non-farm use on an ALR property for a badly needed new fire hall? Fire services are out with the remit of the Islands Trust. Trustees have no powers over fire services, but what we can do is we can facilitate rezoning by making our system more efficient and ensuring that planning, for example, prioritise certain areas of land over others. Why this is on the still a burning issue after years and years and years, I really don't know. The planning department is choked. If we look, there's a history of applications that should take months, take years. Slegs is a typical example, took years. It's still in the process. We have to do something to unchoke the system. Now, either it's running really inefficiently, or it's being deliberately slowed down to prohibit development in the island. Either way, it's unsatisfactory.
When we spoke previously about this some months ago, when there seemed to be a possibility that that land would become available, I was extremely encouraged because it's such an ideal location. And indeed, I'm going to repeat myself about amenities. The location of it for a new fire hall is something that's anticipated in the community plan, which means when the opportunity comes up, you seize it. If elected, I would certainly make it a priority to speed this application through the system. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Richard. This is not going to be just a fire hall. It's a fire hall and emergency services center. There will be fire and rescue, search and rescue, emergency operations center that we all really like in the winter, and the amateur radio club who helps with radio communications during emergencies. I fully support the location that you have very carefully chosen. I know that there were many locations that that were under consideration. Some of them, the owners just wouldn't sell the land, so no can do. As a trustee, I will work with the staff to find out why things, from their point of view, seem to take so long, and we'll work with them to expedite having this land available to you. Thank you.
The police chief tells me that our fire hall is desperately out of date and actually dangerous. He cannot understand why it's taken more than 2 years at this point to get to where we are, which is absolutely nowhere. I cannot understand what's happening in the permit process. One of the first things I think the trustees need to do, the new trustees, is to get an independent review, find out what's going on, and let's look at it from a business-like point of view and see what can be done to expedite it.
Well, the police chief and Peter need to.
Thank you very much. I too would work to my best of my ability to facilitate the new site for the new fire hall. I do want to point out, though, that it's a matter of myth with regard to the difficulties in planning. 95% of the applications are approved. So we're talking about a minority of the cases here. Now, this is a very important amenity in the community. We need to have a new fire hall. I would do my best to make sure that it is done in a timely fashion. Thank you.
We've been trying to get a new fire hall for close to 20 years now, I believe. And while it's true that 95% of the applications are approved, they take years and cost tens of thousands of dollars more than in comparable communities. We're going to expedite this through the system. At whose expense? I mean, when we try to expedite, well, we don't expedite anything through our system on Salt Spring currently, so we need to really reevaluate how that system actually works. But there are study after study after study put out for some of these projects at the expense of the people who are applying for them. I mean, I'm looking at the application for the fire department, and I'm wondering how much it's going to cost the fire improvement district to get this through, and how many studies are going to be put in place just to get a fire hall that we all need. The fire department's been told that it's going to take a minimum of 2 years to process this thing through. That's ridiculous, and it's probably going to end up costing the fire department $100,000 to make it happen. Again, ridiculous. The system needs to be looked at, reevaluated, and changed.
Follow up on that?
Very quick.
Okay. You need to remember that there are different views of the fire hall project and the siting there. Okay. We'd still need to keep into account the protection of communities. I had a constituent recently tell me, you know, this could be seen as a case of seniors abuse working over the people at Brinkworthy. So we do need to be careful about that, okay? It's a group we need to be aware of, okay? Just so you know there's another view out there.
May I just respond to that?
We don't want to get a debate going here.
No, but just to let you know that we have met with the residents of Brinkworthy, at least 40 or 50 of them, and only two out of that number were against having the fire hall at Brinkworthy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As a supplementary, I served 3 years on the fire board. I'm a resident of Brinkworthy. I'm on the Brinkworthy operating committee. The owner, TriStar, has kindly donated the land. I don't know of anyone in Brinkworthy who's worried about senior abuse at that site. It's a non sequitur. Forget it.
I think the topic has been dealt with. Next question from my left.
Gordon Hanford, a Southender. As we Southenders get out our rubber boots and pull them on lovingly and get on the rain slickers and wade through the water, it's easy to forget that sustainable water is one of the most crucial issues on Salt Spring Island. I just want the CRD reps and anybody on trust that wants to comment, what have you done or would you plan to do to make sure that we have sustainable water supplies on Salt Spring into the future?
Order that you spoke first.
Pardon? I can get, okay. So what we're going to do, or what's happened?
What have you done or will you do?
Well, I mean, there's two pieces of water. There's a water district, okay? That's public water, potable water, and that falls under the management of the various commissions that support that. And then there's the other piece of water, which basically is water that's used by individuals or they're licensed from our lakes, or they have wells. So in terms of the first piece, that's those. The public water, we've been looking at, there's a whole bunch of problems. I just don't even know where to start. But some of I guess they all come down to the fact that we can't afford, it's very difficult for us to pay for it. To pay for the upgrades, the capital upgrades, the administration and the operations. So we have to figure out ways in order to do the second piece, the administration and the on my website.
Thank you for the question, Gordon. When I said that I would put the long-term interests of the community at large before the interests of any one group, water was one of the things that I was thinking of. I've been speaking to a lot of people in the community over the last several weeks who know a lot about water, including Michael Armour, Wayne Fraser from Water Preservation, Peter Lamb from the Water Council, people from some of the water districts. And we need to implement, and I will make this commitment to implement the watershed management plan that is already in place, that has been done for Cushion and also for St. Mary Lake. So implementing those watershed management plans, number one. And then what I would like to do, because it's so incredibly complex on this island, I would really like to work closely with all the people in the community who have an expertise around water and have a management plan around water quality for the entire island.
On the public water issue, my idea is to get the engineering expertise from a corps of volunteer engineers preferably with water experience, preferably also chemical engineers with that kind of background. We did that with the liquid waste situation, and we wound up with a demonstration project that really whittled the cost down to nothing down in the mid-90s. That was tremendous. Bill Puckering was the man, and he's dead now, unfortunately. So we need to have a core of people that can actually assess the plans of the CRD and tell them to redraw them or otherwise come up with something better. What is happening too much is that the institution's agenda winds up getting imposed on the director, and unless the director has some people to back him up to tell him that it's a load of nonsense, he's basically defeated. So this is where the problem is at. Thank you.
Talk about a complex process. You've got single wells, you've got multiple wells, you've got private systems, and you've got systems that are fed from 4 different lakes. I totally agree that there needs to be an overall plan, an overall vision, short, medium, and long term. The other issue around water, of course, is conservation. So I think the whole water issue really has to be addressed in a total package with the kind of expertise that we need so we have a plan going forward. Thank you.
In regards to the water service commissions, I've been doing some work with the Fulford Commission. It's really important to clarify the roles and responsibilities of the commissioners and the CRD staff. Efforts to date have not been very successful, and there's a lot of work to be done there. I will do my best to get financial and management audits for all the water services so that we can deal with past issues of errors in mismanagement and settle them and restore a sense of cooperation and trust. It's not going to be possible to protect the lake water when you've got houses all around them with septic systems and people living right on the shore of the lake. But in this climate, there's absolutely no reason why we don't have water catchment systems in place. We should be using lots more water catchment. We get plenty of rain. Let's make best use of it. Thank you.
I spent 5 years working for Shell Canada as a subsurface geologist, so I took the opportunity, knowing this meeting was going to be held, to call the hydrogeologist that works for our government in Nanaimo, Dr. Lepkovich. She gave a paper to the University of Edmonton 2 weeks ago about the subsurface water of Salt Spring Island. She tells me our water system is stressed. We deliver surface water, we deliver subsurface water. They've analyzed 126 wells, the flow, the content. We still have a big arsenic problem in our water. We have the algal bloom problems in St. Mary's Lake. She's giving this paper to the Water Council in December. I suggest those people that are concerned, this is the most important issue tonight, is water sustainability on this island. It's stressed. I've been told so by the experts, and particularly this young lady with a degree in hydrogeology. Thank you.
What isn't commonly understood is that unless we incorporate, we're stuck with CRD. We have to buy the 6 water districts that are operated by CRD, we can do nothing about. It's cost plus contracts, 12% I believe, and the first thing that Lions Bay did when it incorporated is it shopped about for its services elsewhere, and it went to Squamish instead, and it got better services and it was cheaper. We could do the same, but we can't unless we incorporate. There are 2 issues with regard to water. One of them is quantity, and one of them is quality. On quantity, an island with 36 inches of rain and 14 inches of snow and a population density of 5 acres per person does not have a water quantity problem. There's a 2-month part of the year, perhaps it extends to 2.5, where some conservation measures would be prudent and some catchment would help. We do have a water quality problem, and that does need to be addressed.
Could I add something about water? Okay, because I spoke briefly to the water quality question, but I didn't speak to the problems with infrastructure and CRD in the various water districts. Certainly islanders have lost trust in the CRD, and for good reason. And it's part of my platform to lobby for provincial review of errors and delays by CRD staff in the water districts on Salt Spring and in the liquid waste area as well. And what I'd be looking for is a report with recommendations so that as to how we can avoid making those mistakes in the future. And to work also, I would also work towards obtaining compensation for affected taxpayers. People bearing the burden of CRD staff errors and delays in the water districts is simply unacceptable. One of the suggestions that was made to me is to use an independent person to do cost estimates on projects if we do continue to accept CRD professional services here on the island. Thank you.
Are there any other candidates for the trust want to speak to this topic?
Yes, we certainly do have a water quality problem, and a large part of that is from runoff. Runoff from the land over which the trust does have a responsibility. So we are going to have to look again at the riparian area regulations. We're going to have to do it carefully. We need to do mapping to know what we're talking about. And with that, we can possibly help with that runoff, which is causing, certainly in St. Mary's Lake, a significant problem.
Very quick rebuttal.
The soft path water strategies identified that in certain areas, like St. Mary's, runoff is not the problem. 63% of the problem with phosphorus in St. Mary's is due to bottom turbidity. 29% is due to septic systems. Runoff is not an issue. We can aerate for the bottom, and the Islands Trust has no power over septic systems. We would have if we incorporate, but not under the present system.
Okay, next question from the... Oh.
Could I rebut the rebuttal?
One last.
What we do know about the Cushion Lake watershed is that it's very, very vulnerable to runoff caused by soil disturbance. St. Mary Lake and Cushion Lake are very different in character. They're both under stress, but for very different reasons. The Cushion Water Lake is huge. It's very, very significant. And indeed, as has been pointed out, the riparian area regulations will be a significant help, notwithstanding they're aimed at fish habitat, but by definition, they will be a significant help in protecting the Cushion Lake watershed. Thank you.
Next question from the trust side.
This question is for George Grams. You say that you're all in favour of honesty and accountability, and yet your website states that 40 jobs were lost when Salt Spring Coffee Company relocated in Richmond. An article in the Driftwood in December last year said that that number is actually 6. So my question is, how do you account for that inflammatory exaggeration, and are you going to correct your website?
I got those figures from the coffee company itself, and I believe our figures are accurate. The coffee company is now up to 70 employees. Most of them are now working off island. They're now paying taxes and rates off island. All they have left is the cafe, essentially. There was going to be an increase in number of personnel. Had that complex went ahead, there would have been greenhouses that growing organic food. There was going to be some sort of attempt to have a cooperative arrangement with Dan Jason to grow organic food. There was going to be organic composting, more employees in the organic composting, and the amalgam of those, I believe, vindicates the figure that I've used on the website. I can certainly have it checked by Mickey McLeod. It's certainly way more than 6.
Next question from the CRD side.
I have a question for each of the 12 of you. It's a very quick answer, and for everyone's benefit, I would appreciate if you restate your name before you answer. The question is, do you think Salt Spring would benefit from being incorporated, yes or no?
I think there are a number of significant advantages in incorporation. Yes.
Don't forget your name.
Yes or no?
I'm sorry, that won't do.
I'm sorry, I don't think it's up to us to be driven into one-word answers to very complex questions. Personally, I could make you a case for incorporation. It's got a lot of positive elements. I remain a skeptic. Thank you.
And that was David Borman.
Your name?
I'm Carol Dodd. Yes, I believe that the island would benefit from incorporation. We're big boys and girls. We can run our own affairs.
Peter Grove, I simply don't know. I need the information. Let's have the study, get the facts and figures, and then we'll make sensible decisions.
Larry Woods, I don't start as an advocate of incorporation.
Could you clarify your comment, Larry?
I said I don't begin as an advocate of incorporation.
So that's no. That's a no.
Mark Wyatt? Yes.
Wayne McIntyre, I've worked in and for a municipality. The answer is yes.
Leslie Wallace, very open-minded.
Garth Hendren, Democrat, yes.
Carol Isles, until I know how we're going to pay for it, I can't say yes. But I think it's going to be very expensive.
Ken Lee, I've served as an elected alderman. Very much yes. I'm going for the gravel.
I never signed blank checks. We don't need to answer that question, frankly, at this point. Let's find out what the costs are going to be. It's going to be expensive. I'm not opposed to it, but I sure as hell ain't going to sign a blank check. Thank you.
Next question, right side.
David and Peter have already answered this question, so I direct it to the rest of the candidates. What's your position on the RAR bylaw, and how would you implement it if you were elected?
There are a number of unanswered questions about RAR. Does it need to be implemented? Eric Booth raised the question that we're already in compliance. That hasn't been answered. Jack Giles QC disputed whether the bylaw as currently constructed would be valid. That hasn't been answered. The Islands Trust, we know, got a legal opinion on the bylaw, and that is not being published. It's been kept quiet. If we look at what the advice of planners in Victoria and on Island was, it was to carry out accurate mapping. What did the trustees do? They chose not to do that for reasons that have gone entirely unexplained. The correct thing to do is to accurately map. But first we need the legal opinion in the public domain. Let's see what that says about whether we comply or not. And if we do, we enact the legislation in a way that walks softly in people's land rights.
I hope you'll permit an answer, notwithstanding you separated me out from the others. I think we may want to caution Mr. Grams that the release of legal opinions may itself be illegal. A local official in the Fraser Valley now faces court action for doing precisely that. Mr. Grams says that's convenient for those of you who didn't hear him. As for implementing the RAR legislation, I'm hopeful that the community has already moved perhaps further than we believe it might have already. The people around, some people in this room have already defined some principles that they believe in. One, we need to protect our fish-bearing streams. Two, we wish to conform with provincial law. And there is movement. People have brought up, indeed, the mapping approach and the watershed approach. These are on the table, they're up for discussion. I won't take any more time, but except to say that I very much look for an open process, and I am hopeful for success in this area. Thank you.
With regard to the RAR, it is provincial legislation, and we need to look at it for our community. It is tied very closely with both quantity and quality of water and where it runs. But I think that our whole community, because it has been a very hot and divisive issue, needs to take a little step back and take a really good look at what we as a community want to do and how we want to implement it. And we need to do that in an absolutely open way.
Peter, do you want to make a... Okay. Next in order then would be Larry.
I think I'll echo what Carol and David have said in that respect. It is BC legislation. We do have to bring in something. Our trustees are repeatedly being reminded that we are not in compliance. So we do have to do something. A lot of the rage, I think, seems to be misdirected. If you're unhappy that we have to do the RARs, that's directed at the BC government, not at the trust. So we're just trying to, the trust is just trying to implement it. We do need to have a very open process, like Carol has said, and I'm hopeful, as David has said, that if we revisit it, we can come up with a better solution. And we are now finding new, less expensive mapping techniques. So the pause might have helped out here in finding ways if we want to do the mapping. Thank you.
Of course, we need to comply with provincial regulations. And of course, we need to ensure protection of our fish habitats. I don't think we really need to protect the dry ditches in front of some of our homes. And I really don't think that the initial reaction of putting 60% of the island into development permit status is what we needed to do. I think that we need to come up with an accurate mapping system. If we can do it inexpensively, that would be great, but it has to be accurate. And then we need to frame the legislation based on the results of that mapping. Thank you.
I think the question was asked to both groups, so does anybody from the CRD want to respond as well?
I'm in DPA 4, so I'm directly affected by the regulation, and I think it's been well said that we have to comply. But the way you do it, the mapping as a person that would be directly affected, I think is essential.
All right, at this point, we'd like to have a break for 5 minutes. We have to change the film and the camera. And if anybody needs to use the facilities, this is your chance. So 5 minutes, and we'll reconvene. We'll get started again, please. And the last question was from the right side, so we'll go back to the left side. My left, that is.
My name is Gus Mitchell. I've been involved in water issues for 8 or 9 years. I live on St. Mary Lake. My question is related to the health of St. Mary Lake. And I direct this primarily to the CRD candidates, although if somebody from the trust candidates would like to pitch in, by all means. We've had a toxic algae bloom for close to 12 months, and virtually nothing is being done about it, except for a North Salt Spring Waterworks aeration system. Are you in favor of doing anything about this bloom? And if so, what would you do? And would you advocate for a sewer system around St. Mary Lake?
Can I respond to this?
Well, we will go in order. The question is addressed to the...
To all of us.
Right, but we'll go in order of when you spoke first.
Excuse me. I stand correct. Sit corrected.
Thank you very much. Am I in favor of a sewage system around St. Mary's Lake? No, I'm not. The sewage system, I should say. The costs are prohibitive. What else can we do? We could probably, as Gus would probably support, institute some kind of inspection and pump out for systems around the lake. Would that deal with the algae bloom entirely? No, it wouldn't. It might be a particular piece of it. However, I must say that if we were to do that, there's a couple of problems associated with it, and that is that at the present time, inspection and pump out would have to be undertaken by the same entity. We don't have inspectors at this point who are trained to do that. So that could present some kind of conflict. The cost to the islanders is also a factor that we would have to consider, and I think also in terms of this particular issue, one has to recognize that we are wonderful stewards on our island as is. So in all probability, there might not be that much need.
We do have a watershed management plan for St. Mary Lake that has not been implemented, so I think that's the number one thing to do. Why do all that work and then not implement the plan and suffer the consequences? I did have a long conversation with Mike Larmer about the water quality in St. Mary Lake in particular, and he expressed a concern. I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak as a scientist. I can't diagnose a problem. I can't say for sure what the cause is. I respect Mike's opinion a lot, and he thinks that it's connected to the warming of the lake. And he also expressed a concern that there is another toxin that could migrate up from down below, down south, if our waters continue to get warm. And that carbon filtration might be something that we're going to have to be looking at in the future in order to protect ourselves against these toxins.
You know, a big problem is trying to maintain in such a small area fish life and potability. Now, there's a lake that in north central Washington State, I think it's Moses Lake, which has a similar situation, or very closely approximating, very small catchment area, and the source for the area. I was going to go there at one time and didn't get there yet. But they actually treat it with aluminum silicate. And I'd like to find out more about how this has worked. They've done this now for the last 25 years. I think they need to retreat it every 12 years or so. So we may have to find some kind of a treatment plan for the sick lake. You know, I mean, maybe drastic, but who knows? Maybe there's a solution. Thank you.
There's lots of new technologies coming out all the time. I know when I was in Lions Bay, they have a septic system there, but they all have there are many treatment plants, and they're all standard-sized lots, and the water when it comes out of the system is virtually clear. So I think there's a lot of things, and it gets back to having a long-term plan. I think getting all the groups together and having a long-term plan and consulting the professionals on what you need to do and then map it out, because there's no question that the quality needs to be improved. Thank you.
We have water quality issues with all our lakes, and it's a serious problem, and it needs study. I'm not a scientist. I can't give you an answer to that. We clearly need to be looking at it. I'd be reluctant to go with a sewer system or sewage system at the moment without more scientific study. Thank you.
Gus, I spent an hour with Trevor Hutton, the manager of the North Salt Spring Waterworks, and he showed me a plan that is being considered to connect all the cottages around St. Mary's Lake with sewer, and to treat the sewer in a new plant at the far end, the south end of the lake, also for an upgraded filtration unit for the algae cyanobacter so lethal. It's actually there. And I think certainly if I was the CRD director, not only would I be encouraging that water district, but all the water districts to contemplate that type of action. We need a strategic plan for water delivery and water quality on this island. We need it desperately. And I was very interested to see what achievements have been made by the improvement district that is served by North Salt Spring Waterworks. They have the big empire across from the movie house. Very interesting place to visit.
Okay, the next question from the trust side.
So this is for the trustees. We have on this island a very participatory method of governing ourselves, lots of commissions that get set up for various purposes and so on. And recently, very recently, we've just had the instance of our two current trustees being sued for breaches alleged of the Societies Act in setting up certain societies to help deal with our problems. And I really would just like to have each of the trustees indicate their response to this type of lawsuit.
I actually think the petition is very sad. I've no doubt that George, Christine and Garth have worked hard. I earnestly believe they've done their best by the island. They think they've made decisions in the benefit of the greater good, and we have a problem. I also earnestly believe in the rule of law. I think there might be a problem in terms of oversight. We have no oversight on our local trust committee. Had we a system of oversight, perhaps this could be resolved at source. And one of the things that Mark and I would like to see is the overlay of some sort of oversight panel or committee that can review these issues and perhaps ensure that they're fixed at source.
Thanks for the question. Our provincial government specifies that local communities must make provisions around climate change and water quality. In working towards those aims, on behalf of the community, our existing elected officials have found themselves apparently in a conflict. The only benefit they derived from this conflict is more and more hours of work for themselves. The suit itself I find malicious. It was unnecessary entirely. It's keyed to this election. It's not a Canadian way of doing things.
Well, I am very saddened by the whole process. I guess part of it is one has to be seen to be neutral, and perhaps that some people think this is not a neutral action, but to engage in a lawsuit is perhaps a bit of an overreaction. And so I'm just saddened by the whole thing, and hope that we can, as a community, learn from this and all of us do a bit better.
These are allegations against the incumbents at this point, and it's now in the hands of the courts, I assume, and it will get sorted out. What I cannot bear, and what has upset me deeply, is this whole process of litigation. Litigation is the last in a series, in a continuum of dispute resolution processes. It's the very last thing that you do. You don't go up and sue somebody on a Friday afternoon and drop a writ on their front doorstep when the people don't know anything about it. It's akin to my not liking how my neighbour has built an addition to their house, and I walk up to him in the middle of the street and knock him on the nose with a clenched fist, and he has no idea why. It shouldn't have happened this way. In a civilized society, we talk to one another first and find out what's going on.
That's a difficult statement to follow, a hard act to beat, because I agree with it fully, and the lawsuit is malicious and aimed at this election, trying to determine the result in this election. Full stop. Thank you.
That was a good thing he said there. I think as an elected official, you really need to be aware of potential conflicts of interest. I don't think that George and Christine and our esteemed Garth over here were malicious in their intent at all. And I don't know enough about what happened. I think that the Climate Action Council and the Water Council and all of these groups are vital to our community. I also think that there are a tremendous amount of really intelligent and worthy people in our community that can assist on those boards. And I encourage them to be successful, and I encourage people to step up. The courts will sort it out, and that's kind of the way that it should be. But I really think that it's also important as an elected official to be mindful of the job that you're supposed to be doing and do the best job that you can, and where possible, bring in other people in the community to sit on some of those committees so that you may not have to sit on every one of them yourself. Thank you.
The question was addressed to the trust candidates, but I think since one of the CRD candidates was mentioned in dispatches, you should have a chance to respond as well.
I can't really, because it is before the courts, I really can't say anything about it. But I do want to weigh in on the piece that's subject of, and that is the Water Council and the Climate Action Council. It's been said before, but actually, you know, without these kinds of bodies, without these people, we don't get anything done. That's just the way we have to, this is the way we operate in our community. We don't have other kinds of structures. So if as a result of this action, the resources are removed from these two councils, they will fail, they will collapse, which is a real sad fact for our community.
Okay, so go ahead.
I think the reason we have a water council and a climate change council is because we're not incorporated. If we were incorporated, these would not be issues. I find they're filling in huge gaps in our management of this island, and as soon as we incorporate, those gaps will be closed. I find this court action mean-spirited.
I guess may as well let the members of CRD comment if they wish.
Having come from a community that has a lot of features of Salt Spring, Lions Bay, many years ago, I was really shocked over the last couple of years the degree of acrimony and a lot of different issues, not only this one, but a lot of others. So I'm hoping that after this election is over, we can have a group hug, we'll call it, for and really and do some healing. We've got a positive community, we've got tremendous people, we've got lots of energy. After this is over, let's get on with the job. Let's all work together and make things happen.
Okay, are there any other CRD candidates want to be found? If not, vote.
Well, I would just like to agree with Peter that we talk first, we listen first, and litigation should be the very last thing.
Okay, now, I think the next question is from the trust side.
I don't know, can you hear me?
No, not sure.
No?
Yeah.
This is really a comment to Mr. Borman, and it doesn't require an answer unless someone does want to answer it. I have a legal background, and as many of you might know, I sat as a judge on the Supreme Court in BC. I just want to comment that although this excuse is often raised, it will be illegal, and this comes from someone who is not a lawyer or perhaps hasn't had any legal advice. A legal opinion is only illegal to provide if the other party says no. The legal opinion is between the lawyer and the client. So if the trust wanted to allow us to see the legal opinion on the question that was raised, I think it was on the RAR issue, then the trust could have said so, could have released the opinion, and it would not have been illegal. Thank you.
Dave, would you respond?
Thank you. The comment is indeed perfectly correct. Legal opinions can be released by vote of the appropriate body, but until then, they do in fact remain in confidence. Thank you.
The next question from the trust side of the room.
Okay, let's suppose I'm a typical Salt Spring resident who would like to see an incorporation, a study about incorporation, and have the opportunity to vote thereafter. Would each of the trustees tell me why I should care whether they personally are for or against incorporation, since I would be casting a vote for trustee?
Yeah, could you clarify your question?
Okay, I would like to know from each trustee why I should care as a voter for trustees whether they are for or against incorporation. What difference will it make to the way you conduct the job?
Thank you for the question. I am personally for an incorporation, but if you check our website, abettersaltspring.com, you'll see our position, and that is that trustees have no powers under the Islands Trust Act to make decisions on behalf of the community as to what type of local governance the community should have in place. Now that means that we shouldn't take a position, in my view, either for or against. The role of the trustee is to furnish the community with the necessary documentation that it can make an informed decision. I believe that documentation is a full provincially sponsored governance study which will provide the information we need on the options, the advantages and disadvantages, and the cost of each. And then it's up to the community. That's my commitment to the community. For the study, and then the community makes the decision.
You're under no obligation, indeed, to care what the people of this panel feel about incorporation. There is no one at this table has the jurisdiction requirement to make you vote one way or another. Indeed, that is something that lies outside the normal process of Islands Trust government. It is, in fact, a change of government, And so if you choose to disregard the views of any of the 6 trust candidates, that's entirely your prerogative.
I think the only reason that you might want to know how people feel about it is it might influence how assiduously they will push for a governance study. I'm committed to pushing hard for a governance study because it has caused so much polarization in the community, and it's distracting from what we need to do. So that's where we need to go with it, but only what we feel is only the way that how hard do you think we'll go for it?
I will devote all my energies to the trust and to the island right from the start, and will continue to do so. The first step, as we have said, is let's get the study done. I will pursue this vigorously. Will not take no for an answer, and we'll go to Victoria and demand it one way or the other. Should we choose incorporation, that changes the rules somewhat. The trust continues, by the way. It doesn't actually go away. But we will do what the people want, and I would support that 100%.
Thank you for the question. It's a very pertinent one. I reminded that we are running for trustee, and the horizon would be at least 6 years until we could be incorporated. So you've got 2 terms of trustees ahead of you. I think your choice is about how well you feel the people in front of you would represent you as their trustee within the island's trust system for the next 3 years and for the next 6 years. And I am one who, on this issue of polarization and division, I'm really, really not uncomfortable with the notion, because I think a lot of that polarization has been manufactured by various entities on the island. Okay, speaking truth to power is what I'm about, and I don't buy this division. And there's a lot of people say there's division. They write about it in various media outlets. I think it's serving a broader end game, that of said incorporation. Thank you.
We have to do the study. There's no question about it. Everybody I talk to asks for it. Is everybody in favor of incorporation? Some people are. Some people don't know. I don't know how much it's going to cost. I don't know how much it's going to cost to incorporate our roads. I know how much money we send over to the other islands to subsidize them right now. Maybe that money could be better spent here. It would be nice if we elected people from Salt Spring who make decisions for Salt Spring. But until such time as we do a provincial study, a provincially funded governance study, we won't know all of the answers. It's extremely important, and George and I will work as hard as we possibly can to make sure that that study happens. Once it's done, it's up to the community to decide which direction they want to go, and I will support that.
May I rebut?
Supplementary.
Keep this going a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, you're all aware that the province has said that there will be no incorporation study during the next term. And they have a variety of reasons for this. They say, for example, that there's a queue of other communities ahead of us and they only do one a year. They say quite stringently, we're not going to spend $100,000 to take your temperature and so on. Indeed, the previous group of elected officials ran up against this, and they went off to Victoria, and indeed they found out that there was going to be no study, so they came back and hunkered down to their jobs. We hear from some candidates that there are means, that there is a way to get these funds. Fine, if we get them, that means that we can get ahead with the study that much sooner. But I would challenge, I think, probably the 3 candidates, or maybe the 4 candidates to my left, to specify what special means they have of getting this restructure money. moreover, do you have to be elected a trustee to get those funds for us? Could you not work, for example, through ISG, bringing pressure on the provincial government to make sure these funds are forthcoming? What special means do you have that the rest of us don't seem to know about?
Very quick response to that.
David is right, of course. We need good governance on the island regardless of whether we incorporate or not. And Mark and I put in place policies and positions and proposals whereby we believe we will implement good governance even if it takes 6 years. I have no special means of raising funds or eliciting the provincial government to accelerate a study except by persistence, by persuasion, and I'll do everything in my power to try and achieve that.
I think we'll set a new policy here that anybody speaking the second time on the same topic gets 30 seconds rather than 1 minute.
This island has taken the initiative many times to raise funds for worthwhile projects. We've saved acres and acres of land, and it's all been great. And I know that if the government wouldn't fund a governance study and they set a price tag at $150,000, I'm sure I could find 500 people on this island to write a check for $1,000 each to make this governance study happen. If we have to fund it ourselves, it needs to be done.
Okay, next question from the CRD side.
Hi, this question is for Carol Isles. I heard you earlier when you were talking about houses around lakes, that you couldn't protect water around lakes because of that. Could you clarify that for me, please?
Well, I'm not a scientist, but I know if people are living around lakes, they're in the lakes. These houses are old, and we probably do need to be looking at septic systems and things around lakes. They've been in position for a long time, and we just ignored them. And I think perhaps we do need to look, as Leslie was saying, at the watershed management plan and do something more than we are doing. It's very difficult because everybody has, it costs money, and nobody really wants to go into that kind of a long-term planning situation like that. It's not a simple answer.
I'd like to say something, if I may. And I don't know if everyone's going to like this, but we've got a library, we've got a swimming pool, but we can't drink the water. There's something seriously wrong here. So when Walkerton comes to town, are you going to wish you'd spent that money on septic monitoring and a septic bylaw, a pump out bylaw, so that everyone, and I know most of you here are probably really responsible around the septic systems, but not everybody is. And there's systems that were put in a very long time ago that were grandfathered in, and who knows if there's leachate from those systems going to lakes, but we do know we have problems with the water that we drink here from the lakes. Personally, I would rather put my money into having good quality water than to having another recreational opportunity on Salt Spring.
Next question from the trust
And I
fund.
hope nobody has to die first before we do that.
This is a question for George and Mark. At the beginning, you expressed what seemed like genuine concern about the trust's, what you characterize as the trust's runaway spending. I'll leave it to other questioners to challenge the accuracy of your figures. When you were asked whether you were for incorporation, you both responded with an immediate and unqualified yes. Now you tell us you have no idea what incorporation would cost. So it's just, when it comes to a corporation, that money doesn't matter?
We were asked whether we would say yes or no. Of those two options, I chose one. I didn't try and take a middle road as some people do. I try to answer the question honestly. On the cost for incorporation, on the cost for incorporation, I can look at Bowen Island, I can see it didn't break the bank there, I can see the affected efficiencies, I can look at Lions Bay, a community of 1,500 that went incorporated, that was affordable for that community. I'm a consultant to Cape George Colony in Washington State, 550 people, and they're incorporated. And none of those seem to have difficulties. We also have 67% of an increase in the trust budget in the past 5 years. Now, for the opponents of incorporation, had that been the situation that arose, there would be blood in the streets. The truth of the matter is that those in favour of the trust have raised no objection to that, but it's unreasonable at a time when there's an economic decline.
Do you know how much more incorporation is going to cost than what we're doing now? I mean, our taxes are going up anyway. Our fire taxes are going up anyway. Property taxes have gone up 67% in the last 5 years.
Declining.
Declining.
My property taxes, I have $1 million property.
Well, the value of the value.
No comments on the floor, please. Have to ask any questions or make any comments from the microphones.
The only reason property taxes are declining is because the value of your property is going down. But the trust budget has gone up 67% in 5 years. I don't know how much more incorporation is going to cost, or if it's going to cost any more money. That's why we do a provincially funded governance study to find out those details.
Can I just ask a supplementary then?
Very quick supplement.
Okay. My understanding that is you're saying that if asked a yes or no question on any subject, you would answer yes or no and then exercise no independence of mind?
If I might clarify, please, I think the question that was originally asked was, do you think the island would benefit from incorporation, not are you in favor of corporation? I think there's a different question than some people are responding to right now. Okay, we'll follow the same format and go now to the CRD side.
Okay, continuing on incorporation, and I'd just like to forestall the gentleman's over there's question or statement that property taxes are decreasing. I don't know anybody's on Salt Spring whose taxes are going down. But my question is to Garth. My understanding was that the government, the provincial government, would receive, would be interested in doing a study if the elected representatives from Salt Spring were in favour of that study and in favour of incorporation. Now, it wasn't, I didn't understand it as being a financial issue. I thought it was an application issue, that if you would press for a study, then a study would be conducted. And can you clarify if that is the case or not?
Thank you very much. This is a wonderful opportunity. The study has to be driven by the Ministry of Community and Rural Development. That's the authority. That's the body that holds the authority to make the decision as to whether we're going to do this or not. It's I want to come back. Someone said, "Where is there a list of entities that are looking for this?" There was when we went forward in 2009. There were two on it. Souk was one, and we were number two. Souk backed out because of it was a boundary dispute, and they decided to resolve it in another way. The cost has to be borne by the ministry. They refuse to allow money to be, allow other places to underwrite the cost of the study. That's not the incorporation, because there's two pieces of money here. The study, $100,000 to $120,000. The incorporation, we don't know the number. So that's those pieces. I'm sorry, I don't know if I've answered the question.
No, but the question was, did you advocate for a study?
Oh yeah, definitely we advocated for a study. And in fact, really, that seems to be, that was another piece that the ministry seemed to feel was necessary, that there had to be, we had to come together as the elected officials and advocate for that. That was a driver, okay? What happened was this financial recession occurred. They didn't have the money. They didn't want to go forward. It's over though.
Next question from the trust center.
I have a question, but first I want to comment on the accusation that taxes are going up. I'm sorry, as a taxpayer, I care about the amount I have to write on the check. And for the last 2 years, the amount I've been writing on the check is going down. And that's what counts to me. I mean, I don't know, maybe the rest of you don't mind what the number is on your check, but I do. Now, my question, I respect, is to Mr. Grams, I respect your support for incorporation. However, after the roasting company decision, you made it abundantly clear that your disdain and your repugnance for the trustees and for the trust. My question is, how can you in honesty run for the trust when you do not believe in it? How can you expect us to expect you to discharge properly your responsibilities if elected?
I believe in the trust mandate. That's why I honour the trust mandate. I value these islands. They're precious to me. I spent a great deal of my life as an environmental activist. I spent 3 years as the chairman of the Scottish Ecological Design Association. I spent 3 years prior to that as its vice chair. I was its newsletter editor for 8 years. I was in its board since its inception. I've a record of environmental activism that's gone back a long time. But this governance is dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional at local trust level, and I haven't criticised the trustees. I've criticised some of their decisions. I've criticised some of the processes by all means. And I should be free to do that in a democratic country. I'm sorry, that was a fairly, can I get a little longer? That was a fairly robust accusation. I've no disdain for the trustees. I said earlier on that I believe, and I earnestly do, that they are doing what they truly believe is for the greater good. I don't believe that some of the decisions are right, but that is a separate issue. I do believe this governance can be repaired. I can believe it can be repaired at local level. I believe that it's right to try and ask the Trust Council to revision, to look at balance in the community, to perhaps give some more priority to issues that are suffering, like our economy, like our cultural health, like our social well-being and affordable housing, and to perhaps consider what we say in our website, that the Preserve and Protect mandate doesn't only apply to the natural environment, it applies to all our environments.
Can I follow up on that?
30 seconds.
I appreciate what Mr. Grams has said. I think what he has said is also demonstrated one of the major differences between the candidates in this election. There are those who are for the protection of neighbourhoods and communities in which you live. I do not think that means we are not also able to act in what he terms the greater good. It's kind of a waffling term like the national interest, and who defines that. So I think your choice is between who's going to work to protect your neighbourhood from changes that you don't want, and those who want changes that a developer or a business might want that's going to go against the neighbourhood. Thank you.
Next question.
It seems, all due respect for everyone that's running for this, I think it's quite a difficult place to be. But I would like to bring up the question about climate change. It's a reality, and I'd like to know what the candidates are going to do, because I think it needs to be a topmost priority.
This addressed to the trust or the CRD or both?
Well, CRD to begin with.
CRD.
Okay. Well, it's not that what I'm going to do, okay? It's what's being done. The CRD actually has the Climate Action Council, which is a regional body. We actually have on Salt Spring the Climate Action Council, which is a local body. Now, from the regional or vice versa, from the local one flows ideas and actions that as a community we can put in place. How do we do this? Well, resources have to support these programs, so your tax dollars are going to this kind of stuff. When you move down into really practical things, you see the recent amendments to the building code, which put demands on terms of more insulation, the water systems based upon collection water systems. Those are now all available. Are they all climate action? No, they're not, but they work in the area. Okay, there's lots more.
Thanks for the question, Chris. I would really like to continue supporting the local climate change action council on Salt Spring, and I would really like to integrate consideration of climate impacts into all decision making. That's something I would bring to all of the various commissions on the island, and I would also be looking to support non-motorized and public transportation, and any way that we can encourage people to get out of their cars, to walk, to hike, to cycle. I was also thinking about the impact of growing food actually really has a big impact on climate, and the more we can grow our own food the more of our own food that we consume that we can grow on Salt Spring, that actually will have a positive impact on climate as well. Thanks for the question.
I think it's really important to keep our eye on the big picture, but some of these ideas in the short term I think are something we all can do. Low flush toilets. I bet if we put up our hands here, how many people have low flush toilets? Or how many people don't? Okay, so you got about 3/4 say they do on all your toilets. That's still 25% improvement we can get there. The water catchment system, how many people have water catchment systems? Okay, 20%. So there's little things we can do, we can all do. And I would like to see the bus service certainly accelerated much more than it has been. We've got step kids and they always need driving back and forth. And quite frankly, it's a pain. And it's also not very environmentally friendly. Thank you.
As with most things, there's no one simple, easy answer. And certainly the community has to be involved. I would absolutely encourage cycling. I'm delighted to see the Velo Village project for next year. I think that's going to be an amazing project for our island, and how we can actually improve access to cycling paths and if we make cycling safer, we make driving safer. And that is only a benefit for all of us. Improving transit, we've got it on the main routes, we now need to move it out to some of the smaller routes. And in Europe, they have buildings with zero carbon impact. We should be looking a lot more at these kinds of green building inspection requirements and really reducing the carbon impact and those sorts of things. It's being done elsewhere and we can do it here.
I would agree with everything that's been said. Certainly, I think one of the best things we can do to lower our carbon footprint is not to use as much gasoline, to do everything we can to diminish the use of cars on this island. And we've made a good start with the bus system, but it's got a long way to go. I would push very hard to improve our bus system so that our islanders can get to the ferry terminals, the riderships dropping, get to Long Harbour, get on that ferry as a foot passenger, take the buses to the Canada line, go downtown. That kind of alternative. I think we should do our very best to reduce the use of gasoline and cars. I think that would be a great start to a climate change initiative?
Actually, with the short distances on the island here, it'd be easy to have those kinds of transport means, electrified ones, because you're not going very far and you can plug it in again. Most of the problems with electric vehicles is the short range that they can do. So it's a given. It's a no-brainer, actually. It should be more electric cars on the island. And also possibly some of those things that Dr. Ballard was developing, the fuel cells. Fuel cells are good as well. So it's a feasible thing. I think that that's probably the most likely places where we can make an impact. In the building area, it gets kind of difficult because a lot of this stuff has eventually repercussions. Remember when the urea formaldehyde was being touted as the great big thing and it wound up being a disaster. I'm very much in doubt about the composites and chemically driven answers that people sometimes will like. Thank you.
First, supplementary?
I just have to. The transit system is a win-win story. We're now, with the exception of the far north, Sunset Drive, Walker Hook Road, and in the east, Beaver Point Road, we have pretty well universal coverage of our bus system, 6 days a week, and statutory holidays and Sundays have a slightly reduced service. We go from early morning to 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening. Yes, we could probably do better. And in a way, we are doing it. We're proposing or supporting a rideshare provision for other parts of our island where we can't afford to put the transit system in at the present time. We also we're looking at the handy dart, which is another piece of transportation for people for whom it's very difficult to get.
Speaking as a member of the Transportation Commission, I think after all these suggestions, we're going to order a double-decker bus tomorrow. Next question from okay, this was addressed to the CRD, but if any members of the Island Trust candidates would like to respond, go ahead. All of you, in this case, will do it in order. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I don't believe in mandating climate change actions. I believe in moral suasion, education and moral suasion. Look what we have done on this island with recycling. Just by educating everyone, most people recycle. We support a lot of our community services with that recycling, and I think that we can educate one another on climate change ideas and make that effective. The bus service is wonderful. I'm a temporary parent, and guess what? When my Spanish daughter went to Victoria last week, she took the bus from Fernwood all the way to Fulford and all the way back, and I didn't have to do 2 hours of driving. It was wonderful. Let's have more. Another thing you can do is shop locally. You don't have to go off island, so you don't need to burn gas and drive a smart car. I do.
We are all aware of climate change. We all want to protect our world, let alone our island, for our children and our grandchildren. And we all have to take personal responsibility for this. We have to take personal responsibility for greenhouse gas emissions, for instance. With regard to the trust, it can only do what it can do in terms of land use planning. We want to foster energy-efficient communities. We need to protect our habitat, and we need to protect our water sources. Thank you.
One point of information about neighbourhood electric vehicles and SLBs and MEBs, as they're called, is currently they're illegal on our roads. The Ministry of Transport doesn't allow them in roads with a speed limit that is any more than 40 kilometres per hour. And of course, all roads in Salt Spring have a speed limit of more than that. Now, if we were a municipality, we could make them legal, but we can't under current circumstances. Ministry of Transport won't allow it, and I think that's a sadness.
Just to follow up, as I said earlier, I support the activities of the Climate Council and the Water Board and other committees. And if we did move towards incorporation, I feel that one of the big costs would be our need to then rely on paid consultants rather than on the time and talent given voluntarily by many Salt Springers to the present climate change efforts and other committees that we have working with the Trust.
I don't see volunteers disappearing ever.
Next question from the Trust side.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Connell. I've got the Salt Spring Metal Recycling business. And what I've done to cut back on greenhouse gases is I bought a new truck that produces 90% less emissions, burns 15% less fuel. This is a beautiful place to live, but there's so much divisiveness. And it really is the fact that as a country, our population has grown in the last 35 years at 1.14% per annum. Whereas if you compare the same data for Salt Spring, it's 2.24% per annum. So we're growing at a great pace. And we're stuck with the services and the space to work from that we had 35 years ago. There's been no large development, and people use development as a dirty word these days, but sorry, I need just another second here, because my family's been here for over 50 years, and we've been inclusive. Leslie Drive, David Crescent, Donald Road, Fraser Road, Armand Way, these are all family members. This is what this place is named after. It's my roots and many other people out here. And it's time that we had some forward movement to allow young families places to live and work. And I think that we need to look at a location and set it out and move forward. No more studies, let's take action. So what do these candidates propose that they can do to move this forward on all of them, CRD and Islands Trust? I'd like to hear what they think they can do. Thank you for your time.
Would you very specifically clarify your question, John?
We've got a lack of housing and a lack of industrial and commercial space available. What can we do to move ourselves forward in the future?
Okay.
We have to facilitate a more streamlined planning process. We have to make it systematic, analytical, and time limited if necessary. SLEG's application I mentioned earlier, I understand that has been in the pipeline for 7 years. Now, I don't understand why it takes 7 years to process an application. I understand too that they've been asked for 2 additional studies. And 7 years down the line, additional studies are still being requested. It seems bizarre. I think the way we can have an efficient process, but we can raise the bar on environmental standards. It doesn't have to be easy, but candidates should be made aware of whether they pass or fail much earlier in the process than they do at the moment. I think that would help considerably.
Well, thank you for the question. The province does specify that local communities must make provision, must make plans ahead of time for housing. I've already said in my earlier remarks that in one class of housing that I worked with the APC, the Advisory Planning Commission, for the widest possible application of the new rules coming down on the legalization of suites and cottages. Also, we do have some successful low-cost and affordable housing units. I have been part of some of those previously, especially for seniors. One advantage of increasing density, for example, is that you may get it where you want it. For example, in the village of Ganges. If we had Ganges to build all over again, we would probably make it a lot more dense than the one we inherited. Thanks for your question.
I think you're asking about what are we doing for young families in regard to jobs and affordable housing. In terms of jobs, there's a lot that we can be doing in those areas which have a low environmental impact. Agriculture, education, the arts, technology. There's a lot going on in this island and we can do a lot more. On the farming side, we have a fantastic brand in the name Salt Spring. We have Salt Spring cheese, Salt Spring mussels, Salt Spring coffee, bless them. And we should be doing more in that regard. And I would like to see, and we can do so. In terms of housing, I would certainly support the existing cottages and suites, and I would support the densification in Ganges. We need to do something about improving the look of Ganges. We can have stores with suites along the top, increase the density there, and provide more reasonable housing. Thank you.
Carol.
I'm so sorry.
But that's it.
I apologize.
Address the audience, please.
John, I really appreciate your question, and I've followed your case with interest. Understand that, or I fully believe that affordable housing and new areas where some commercial activities can go on are not driven by the trust, but they can certainly be facilitated by the trust. And as a trustee, we've done so many studies. I want to see all those studies. I don't want to duplicate them. Let's take the studies that we've got and make this all happen.
Larry?
Yes, on the affordable housing side, there are a number of projects in the pipeline. The trust, as Karen said, would facilitate, would work with the community groups, promoting these projects and developers and the contractors in what, as she's called, the facilitation rule. On the industrial lands matter, the Industrial Lands Committee has revealed through a survey that there is a good deal of industrially zoned lands out there on Salt Spring. I'm not sure about the references to shortages, because from the statistics I've seen, that it is there, the lands are available. They may not be where certain people want them to be, but it is there and they are there to be used.
Mark?
John, I think you probably know better than I do about industrial land on Salt Spring because you've studied and looked for all sorts of places where you can put your business. I think that it's really, really important for the trust to support the right kind of development and move towards a green economy on Salt Spring and encourage a shift towards an ecologically sustainable future. By doing that, we are going to create new jobs and new opportunities for young people. At the same time, we need to look at densities and encourage rezoning for affordable housing. Suites and cottages need to be legalized. Most of them are occupied now, so I don't think it's going to cause a major problem in terms of water issues and parking and things like that. Legalizing the suites would give us an opportunity to look at them and bring some of them up to standards. As a first responder, I've been to all sorts of places on this island. And some of the places where people live are deplorable. It's obscene the way some people have to live on this island when they're paying $400, $500, $600 for a bowler trailer, for example. We can do better for our community with affordable housing, with opportunities, and for the future.
The question was addressed to the CRD as well, so Garth?
Thank you very much. I can really talk more about public housing as opposed to public affordable housing. There's the two kinds. We have rental or available for rental, and that public affordable housing which is for sale. As you know, and I said earlier, the school district gifted 7.2 acres of land north of, just off of Drake Road, where Phoenix Elementary is, for the building of affordable housing. We got the land. We've got an agent, which is a CRD, because you have to have someone who can receive it. We have a council who has looked at in great detail and depth the kinds of public housing we need, and we need it all, by the way. It's just not that we need it for, we need transition, we need shelter, we need affordable housing for people with low incomes, we just need affordable housing for the middle income, we need affordable housing for seniors as well. So they looked at all of that, so we know what we needed. So it's just now a matter of making a decision as to which piece we're going to do. This is just public housing, you guys. This is not housing in the private sector. So the only thing we're missing right now is a developer who can take it and do it, okay? And it'll happen.
Is it?
On the CRD side, each household on Salt Spring is currently contributing $5.08 per year to the CRD Regional Housing Trust Fund. That's not very much money. It's less than 60 cents per month per household. And yet, affordable housing is a key issue for our economy. If our economy is going to grow, even if it's going to stay the same, people still need places to live. I would increase significantly our contribution per household to the Regional Housing Trust, and I would look for places to reduce taxes on the other side. I would also lobby the Islands Trust to legalize existing suites and cottages and to legalize the new ones that can prove adequate water supply. I would also support other local affordable housing initiatives, which always take an incredibly long time to come on stream.
Well, when I was on the CRD in 93, 96, I was on all of the 3 years, I was also a member of the Capital Region Housing Corporation Board. And the big problem that the board had was finding land that could be built upon. That is for the whole region, for 325,000 people at the time. Now, if land is made available here, they can, at the time they could, produce 50 living units a year. They had a mandate for that. They had over 1,000 units under administration at the time. I don't know where it's now. But in any case, they will do that. And their big problem was finding the land for it. The Catholic lands issue was a disgrace. It was battled the whole 3 years I was on the board. Nothing could be done about it because the owners wouldn't segregate the part that was going to be given to the community. The whole lands were supposed to go to Salt Spring, and 5 acres is what the result of it was. It was a total disgrace. And if I may add one on the double-headed situation on industrial land here. Poor old John, I mean, he's taking care of all the dead cars that are littering the island, and they're giving him hell for leather for doing the job. I mean, that's a disgrace too. They should bloody well look at the situation with a sense of realism from public access and from disposal grounds alone, and get off his back. Thank you.
Affordable housing is common across the province. I spent 6 years on the North Vancouver Advisory Planning Commission. We did a lot of work on LEED standards, leading in engineering and environmental design. Affordable housing was big because the schools were closing. We had 5 schools closed on the North Shore, primarily because there was no young people. So I think there's a great opportunity here for Salt Spring to draw on some of the other communities that have done some very innovative projects. I would visualize that on Salt Spring you could develop a affordable housing area which could be a real showcase and become a marketing opportunity for Salt Spring and put us on the map as being a very advanced community that looks at affordable housing as not only affordable housing on its own, but an opportunity for business.
There were 2 parts to your question, I think. One was also about jobs. I would really like to encourage food production and small-scale farming and the trades. I had a leak under my house. I had to make 5 phone calls before I could find a plumber who could come and fix it. So we certainly have room for more people to work in those kinds of areas. Affordable housing, it's not just if we legalize the suites, we have to do something to encourage landlords to keep the rates, the rents low. So there have to be other functions in place as well. And we have to have support for tenants. Not all tenants are responsible for it in terms of the property or the neighborhood. So there have to be support systems on both sides of that. It's not, as usual, not an easy answer, or we already have done it.
I guess I've got some good news here. As a member of the Park Committee at Brinkworthy, there's 130 units there. And if affordable housing means housing that costs less than $200,000, then there's a real resource there that we're very anxious to hold on to. The new initiative for Bellland Strata seems to be going ahead quite vigorously. And it's quite possible, if you're 55 and over, that within the next year, it's going to be possible to actually buy a home in Brinkworthy at a price that a lot of people can afford. So I think that in effect, because of our efforts, we persuaded the owner of Brinkworthy to encourage him to this Bellland Strata so that this property can't be flipped by someone, as these kind of properties have been done in British Columbia. I'm very happy about that. As far as industrial park goes, I think we need one. There's a desperate need. People don't like the idea of industrial park. I just came back from Banff. They have a perfectly good one there. It's a very desirable tourist area. They have an industrial park there that's creating jobs. It's working well. Places that John wants, a coffee company, whatever's going on there. I think they're good things, and they don't detract from the beauty of a tourist destination. Thank you.
Can I just speak to the economy part of that question just briefly?
30 seconds.
Okay, thanks very much. I just wanted to say that I would continue to support the work of the Economic Development Commission in Salt Spring and to encourage them to include the Chamber of Commerce among their membership, which they haven't done so far, and to work closely with the Chamber. I met with the Chamber and they told me that they have been denied membership on the commission. Oh, now we're going to have a fight.
15 seconds, Gareth.
No, they weren't denied membership. The commission members were all filled. It was all full. There was no position for them. And the other piece is that do we really do? Because I thought about this. I thought, should we have those kinds of pieces in that commission, or should we have those people come to the commission with their ideas of how things should be done? And I really think.
And they have they been doing that?
They have come once, yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're it's a really new commission. They're still struggling with what their plans are to do. So that's a really tough piece. Anyways, I just have to say that.
Okay.
I'm a director of the Chamber of Commerce. We were never invited. I find it extraordinary that there's an Economic Development Commission on Island, and the one organisation that represents more businesses on Island than any other is denied a seat at the table. The logic in that belies me. Perhaps Garth can explain it.
Okay, Gareth has 30 seconds to respond.
There was no denial of it. When we were looking for commissioners, we advertised in our local paper twice, which is a standard way for selecting commissioners. People applied, they came forward, we reviewed the applications and made a selection. It was based upon individuals. It was not based upon entities from the community coming forward. Now, as you know, there are members on the Community Economic Development Commission who are chamber members. So it's not as if the chamber in that sense is not represented, or business is not represented.
Okay, 30 seconds.
I sit on the Economic Development Commission, and quite frankly, I've been really frustrated. I carried forward a proposal from the Chamber on tourism that I thought would have been a great idea to stimulate the economy in the off-season, or the shoulder season. And at the last minute, after a long process, it was shut down. So I was really disappointed that we couldn't take some action and really help the Chamber with what I thought was a very realistic proposal.
I'd just like like to go back to affordable housing. We talk about affordable housing, and very often that conversation is leveled at people who are in the lower income areas. And I want to remind everybody that affordable housing also must be made available on this island to people who are teachers, are nurses, are first responders. They have to live here too. They're the people that we all rely on for our services, and we have to make housing for them too. Thank you.
Okay, I think with the lineups we have, we better move on. So, David?
Thank you. I'd like to go back to affordable housing too, for the trust candidates. For as long as I've been on the island, it's been an issue, and I do not recall a single elected representative who has not been in favour of affordable housing. And yet here we stand 20 years later with minimal achievement in affordable housing realm. I don't want to take away anything that anybody has done in the public realm, but Garth has given us a good illustration of how hard it is to get things done. My question to the trustees, or the potential trustees, is this. Would you see to make it your priority to legalise suites and cottages, both existing and new, to provide affordable housing on this island, not in 5 years' time, not when you've completed another study, but now?
Tim Wade, the consultant, prepared a report and submitted it to the trust, recommended the legalisation of secondary suites and cottages. I would implement that without further delay.
As I said earlier, David, at the APC, I stood up for the widest possible liberalization of the rules concerning suites and cottages. However, there is a cautionary note. We must take care around water and around neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods may not wish to have increased densities imposed upon them. Apart from that, yes, I think the initiative is ready to go ahead. Thanks, David.
I absolutely support the legalization of secondary suites and cottages. Around the issue of water, if are we going to go down the road where we say only 2 people can live in that house? If a house is sold and they have 3 teenagers that take 3 showers a day, they're going to use a lot more water than a house that has 2 people living in it and puts in a suite for 1 or 2 more. So I think we need to really look carefully at that, but I'm absolutely in favor of legalizing secondary suites and cottages.
I would absolutely support the legalization of suites and cottages and make it a priority.
Yes, I'm aware of talking to my boss over there, but yes, the answer is yes, with the same qualifications that David added with respect to water concerns and community concerns.
Art?
Yes, absolutely. Legalize the suites and cottages. It not only makes housing more affordable for renters, but the people who are paying the mortgages, a mortgage helper can sometimes make that end of it more affordable as well. Thank you.
Okay, next question from the trust side. The last one was on the trust side too. We'll let that go.
And now a question from the trust side. Good evening, my name is Charles Nash. I've spent the last 30 years working all over this province in various aspects of local government. Your situations are not unique, and I'd like an answer from all of the trustee candidates. It seems to me that there's an issue of communications. I don't want to vote for a trustee on this island who turns into a mushroom. What positive actions are you going to take to keep the electorate informed over the next 33 years if you are lucky enough to be elected? Thank you.
There are a great deal of things we can do. The first one is to record all, videotape all meetings So it shouldn't be left to concerned or civic-minded citizens to record meetings. They should all be recorded as a public service, and they should all be online, so that anybody in the community that wants to find out what went down at a local trust committee meeting can turn to a web resource, and they can be informed through that. So I think that's one of the first things I would seek to do. I would look to reconstitute advisory groups. I think that the advisory groups are not broadly representative of the members of the community, and I think that needs to change. I think we need a protocol for the Constitution. We need terms of reference for defining the boundaries. We need guidance on the limits of their regimen. I've got so much to speak about on this, but just to be a little bit more, I think we need an oversight panel too. Accountability, transparency, and efficiency. I think like minute meetings between planners and trustees. I think that's an essential thing that we have to do. I think as I understand it, the kind of open office situation where trustees can walk in and gain access to files is not something that I've observed in other communities. That I think has to change too. There's a lot here that has to change too, so that we don't have process abuse.
Here are two suggestions for you. It's understood that on the RAR issue especially, the trust fell down very badly in providing public information. The money was there, it wasn't used. Clearly, on an issue like RAR, there has to be the fullest possible public information. Here's a suggestion for you. The town hall meetings were instituted by Beth Byron when she was a trustee, and myself. I was her fellow trustee. Didn't have it before. Didn't exist. Try going to a CRD board meeting and you will be shut down. You will not be heard. But our public town hall meetings have taken on a life of their own, and sometimes slip into being a platform for people who frankly should hold their own meetings. Here's what we can do. Separate the official meeting of the trust committee from the town hall so that people can have confidence that their public business is going to go on in a proper environment. Hold more town halls, meet with people, organize specified town halls with specific groups, people who have specific issues, and use the trust quorum rules to make sure that those meetings are official. Thanks.
Well, sorry. The first thing that I will do when I am elected is I want to take office space in the downtown area. I hope that there's some money in the trust budget for it. If not, I'll take it at my own expense. Because I think that I need to be able to have people walk. I will have regular office hours and some of them in the evenings. People need to be able to walk in and talk to trustees. I agree with the videotaping of meetings. I agree with more town halls. But I really think that if you deal with problems when they're small, they tend not to become big. And so regular talking to people, regular listening to people is vital so that we don't get these sort of bombs dropped on us. We know where we're coming from, we know what people's concerns are, and we can look after them. So if I'm elected, come to my office. Thanks.
I would certainly support the official recording of all trust meetings, and those recordings will be posted on our website. The town hall idea is an excellent idea, and it's something I would certainly want to pursue. Right now, it's quite formal. It happens in midday. I'd like to see it happen in the evening when more people can get there, and it can be more accessible.
and where we can have real conversations, and it should be held monthly or semi-monthly. Certainly the committees are essential. Trustees have to be advised, and somewhere those committees have to be open and transparent. And the last thing is an idea that came to me today by email from a concerned citizen, is his idea of an idea bank. You can write in and have with your ideas, have them posted on the website, and maybe some sort of a response provided. I don't know if that's workable, but it certainly intrigued me. And lastly, I want to be available. I want people to phone me, pick up the phone and say, Hector, what on earth are you doing? I've got lots of good contacts on this island who have good contacts, and they have good contacts. We can network and let one another know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Charles. At the outset, I stated my belief that the trust needed to improve its communications with the public. There are many excellent ideas that have been put forward here this evening, and I think it's well worth looking into all of them. One of my main concerns as a working person myself is to improve access to the trust business for workers and for young people, which means we need to vary the times of our meetings in order to keep the ideas that are flowing on this island diverse and inclusive. And so I applaud your question, and I think it's a major part of the trust being a learning organization, learning how to improve the way it communicates with islanders.
Mark?
One of the disadvantages to being last is trying to come up with something new, because everybody has made some pretty good points here. We need to videotape the meetings, that goes without saying. Putting them on a website makes sense. Open and honest dialogue with all of the electors is something that needs to happen. A trustee needs to be readily available to anybody that has a question. At the same time, they have a job to do, so I don't think that a trustee can spend every day answering hundreds of emails, but at the same time, you need to be there. You need to have an open door policy to be able to communicate with everybody. Meetings for families and working people need to happen in the evening. I haven't been able to attend near as many trust meetings as I'd like, because I run a business and I raise a family. So having meetings in the evenings is a smart thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, next question from the CRD side.
Gus Mitchell again. Garth, I think this is directed at you for starters anyway. Perhaps you could resolve a mystery for me. Could you explain how the gas fund system works, and how big the pot is, and is it the same every year? And how are the funds allocated? What is the accountability? And I find it somewhat disturbing, and I must say I'm quoting the driftwood here, which is always dangerous, about the fact that certain funds, $130,000, if you can correct me on that, was allocated for some expenditures on water, on the Highland water system, and that was as a result of overruns. And is that the appropriate use of this fund?
Thank you. So the gas tax funds are federal. Their taxes that are collected by the federal government. They look for entities where they can be, passed to at the provincial level, so that then they can be managed, they can be distributed. In BC, it's the Union of British Columbia Municipalities that holds the authority to make a decision as to what's going to be supported. There's two kinds of support in terms of, two areas: transportation, greenhouse gas. Okay, the reduction of that. Transportation is a prime example of that, and water. Okay, so there's two sort of columns of capital projects and upgrades that can make application to it. So how do they make application to it? So if the project fits those categories. For example, a water district wanting to install a filtration plant, they can through the CRD get the staff to make an application to the Union of British Columbia municipalities, who will review it and see if it meets the criteria. And if it meets the criteria and the funds are available, they get it. How much funds do we get? So they're allocated within geographic regions. Our particular, and they're dependent upon the population base. So in our instance, it's up to 2014, it will be $412,000 per year. The fund will probably be extended 2017. The amount per capita has not been decided yet.
So sorry, but you didn't answer my question about...
Take a short break, please. We need to change the film. Right back to you. 30 seconds. Not a bathroom break, just a 30-second break. Okay, what are you doing? I live here now. Yeah. Very quickly, please. About 8 minutes to 10. We have been scheduled to finish at 10 o'clock, so the bell request is now to be very concise, and the answer is equally concise, and we'll finish at 10 o'clock.
Okay, just go back to the one part of my question. You mentioned that there were $412,000. Okay, so how is that allocated? Are you responsible for allocating those funds in any way you want to?
No, not at all. No. I have no. I mean, certainly they flow through the electoral director who can take the projects forward, but each project must meet criteria, and the criteria is set by, in this instance, in our instance, the Union of British Columbia municipalities, and it must work in 2 areas. That is water upgrades, transportation, greenhouse gas emissions. Those are the 2 components. So what happens is, the approval process, an application is made on behalf of, we'll just take the water district as an example. The water district we're talking about. So an application is made to the Union of British Columbia municipalities. They make a decision to support and say, yes, this is something that meets all the criteria. So if they said yes, then that comes back to the CRD. The CRD, through the electoral directors, puts a motion forward to expend X number of dollars from the gas tax fund, and it then has to be looked at by the electoral directors, approved. At that point, it then moves on to the CRD board, and they have to look at it and make approval too. Does that answer your question?
If not, then maybe we could converse directly, because we have several more questioners right side of the table.
Hi there. My name is John McPherson. Anybody who read yesterday's Driftwood knows that I have a little bit of an issue with not with the existence of a Climate Action Council or Water Council, but with how they are constituted as private organizations, private committees, by membership by invitation only. And whether or not there is such a dearth of intellectual capital on this island that trustees and the CRD director feel that they themselves must sit in attendance. So I'll finish very quickly. So my question is, do you feel that there's a dearth of intellectual capital on this island? I see a lot of it sitting up there tonight. And do you feel as a potential trustee or CRD director that you will continue the tradition of sitting on these committees or councils, whether it gets you into a conflict of interest situation or not?
I would suggest you keep your answers very brief, because otherwise we'll run out of time.
I think the committees do good work. I would not wish to sit in every one myself. I can't see the point of having an advisory group and then if they go into a darkened room to consider certain issues, that I have to follow them in and listen to every word. I think I would weigh the information, the evidence, the recommendations, with the advice I was given by the planners, and come up with a balanced judgment. And that's what I think trustees should do.
Actual question, John. No, there's no dearth of intellectual capital on this item. Committees are usually set up by advertising, and we get them by volunteers.
These committees weren't, David.
Oh, then I stand corrected. Thank you very much.
They were by invitation only, closed membership. No opportunity for anybody else to get in.
It sounds like you're better informed than I am. As regards my own role, I would take an observer role in the present atmosphere around advisory committees. I think my should not be an official of a committee. Thank you.
I have no intention of sitting on every committee on Salt Spring. And if I haven't been able to answer every question as fully as I would like to, I commit to have the answers. I've been writing them all down, questions. I am committed to having the answers on my blog, caroldogfordtrust.com, in 48 hours.
We must certainly have advisory committees, and they have to be open, they have to be inclusive. Any membership has to be through by advertising, and with regard to intellectual capital, until there are more PhDs on this island than anywhere else in Canada.
Yes, John, thanks for the question. No, there's no dearth of knowledge and expertise on this island, and as I would be remaining with my feet still firmly on the cheesery floor for at least a couple of days a week, I doubt I'd be able to sit on all those committees either.
Lots of smart people on this island. I would encourage them all to step forward and sit on the committees. I don't feel the need as a trustee to sit on these committees. If I'm looking for advice from people, honestly, I want an unbiased opinion to come back to me. I don't really want to be a part of directing or advising that advice. So I would prefer not to sit on the committees and get the opinions coming to me. Thank you.
I've sat on probably a dozen committees in municipalities, commissions and committees, and they have quite a different process. The process in municipalities is you have a council member sit, but they can't vote. Now in our case, the Economic Development Commission, we have CRD director and his assistant both can vote. So that really doesn't encourage the flow of information, in my view.
I'm very consistent in supporting open memberships and open processes only. I would probably like to sit on some of these committees. I would not sit as a voting member, and I probably wouldn't have time.
No, you can't sit on them all. It's just a fact. But you know, there's lots of other mechanisms. For example, the health committee. I don't sit with it, but I get their minutes every month. I get to talk to one or two of the members on an ad hoc basis. It's one of the ways you can deal with it, and it removes all of the problems associated with membership.
Clearly plenty of intelligent people here on the island. And no, you don't have to sit on every committee. I wouldn't sit on every committee. I would like to attend as many committee meetings as possible, but not as a voting member, certainly not.
I agree with what I've heard, and certainly that's what minutes are for. If you're sitting in a position of responsibility and as an advisory committee, you want to read the minutes regularly.
I think this is a good question, and it would have avoided a lot of this problem of making a morality play out of the business of whether one is also having to do with the money that one has been basically attributing to a group like that. Let me finish this up. This, I think, is a very important point, all right? Because I was trying to be very careful not to comment on something that could wind up in court, but it probably isn't there. It's just a matter of settling it out. Now, I think if you're setting up something
you delegate the business of what you're setting up to the parties concerned. You get an arm's length off that. I think that should be a standard ready thing. There's nothing to do with intelligence or anything else like that. That's only reasonable. That's probably been the smartest question that was raised tonight.
It doesn't take a genius to figure it out.
Exactly, right, yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, we're hitting the deadline. We have two people that have been standing for a while, so there will be one person there and the first lady there. And that'll have to be it for the night unless you want to get together later. Greg, go ahead. And make it very concise, very quick, and just give me the answers.
Yes, my name is Greg Spengin. First, let me thank all 12 of you for running. It's a thankless job you're putting yourself forward for, and all the best in the election. You've all sounded extremely sensible. You all seem highly intelligent. You've made our job choosing amongst you a little bit difficult tonight because of your answers given to us. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to maybe differentiate yourselves. I have a cousin who's a very
concise,
a very capable painter, and when I comment about how incredibly he wields his paintbrush, he said it's not about painting, it's what you're going to paint that's important. So if you were to paint something depicting Salt Spring 5 years or 10 years down the road, what would you have in it? Can you tell us in a few words, what is your vision for the future of Salt Spring, differentiating yourselves from the others? Thank you very much.
This is a question that will go beyond the time scope we have right now. Greg, could you come to the meeting next time and ask the same question?
I just asked for a few words from each.
I'm a bit of a painter, so I'll answer. Happy kids, happy parents, happy grandparents, and happy singles.
If anyone can be as concise, go ahead.
I want to see good governance. I want to see good governance at local level, and I want to see good governance at trust level. I think if we see good governance in place, it'll do a lot of healing in the community. I think it will build the inclusiveness, it will provide the consensus, it will open up the transparency, the oversight will be there, and the divisiveness or the reasons for it will be gone. And that's one of the reasons I'm standing for trustee.
Just to be a little different, a covered market in downtown Ganges.
This community was given a tremendous leg up in 1974 when our far-seeing provincial legislators set out a course for us. And that course to build a community in harmony with the environment and growing proportionally with the physical environment around us is a legacy that we could be proud of, that we need to honor, and which is far from being a factor of the past, is a beacon into the future. Salt Spring will become the community of the future in Canada. Thank you.
Anybody else can be concise?
I see, if I'm looking into the future, 10 years' time, I want Salt Spring to be a model for all of Canada. That would be my dream, in terms of the way we conduct ourselves, in terms of governance, and on all other levels. It could be, a dream that we could realize.
Peter took the words right out of my mouth, but I'm going to add that I would like to see us be a very resilient community, and I'd like us to be more beautiful, physically beautiful than we are today.
I dream sometimes about downtown Ganges being an exciting area that doesn't close down at 9 o'clock at night. where not only visitors can enjoy it, but people that live here. Let's make it an exciting place and a fun place to be.
I'd like to see a university campus on this island.
It would be nice to see more sidewalks.
It would be nice to see a boardwalk around the harbor. It would be nice to pull into Fulford Harbor and see something there that we can be proud of. I mean, we've got all of these harbors and there's so much natural beauty here. I think we can dovetail that into developing a green economy and some beauty within the downtown core and within the harbors and make it a safer, happier place and a prouder place, a community that we can really be proud of. Right now, I'm not feeling as proud as I could be, and I think 10 years down the road, we have a choice. We can go one way or the other. I hope that we go up, and 10 years down the road, we see a deep green economy that people the world over look to Salt Spring and go, wow, look at what they're doing there. Maybe we can do what Salt Spring is doing elsewhere in the world. Thank you.
A hard-edged mid-20th century painting focused on common grounds, pastoral pieces with a vibrant center, community center.
I paint my grandchildren riding their bicycles safely on proper bicycle paths, separated from the cars, and having a wonderful time on this most amazing island.
Okay.
I'll repeat that. I'd love to see a tertiary educational institution on this island, a college like Camosun or the campus of U of A or something here for our young people to look forward to and to stay on the island and continue their studies.
I'll have to go back to work.
I'd like to see the whole NIMBY syndrome disappear and, the switch system backbiting nonsense that never seems to end, if that disappeared, I'd die happy.
This is a hard act to follow the next question. Last question as well.
This is directed to Peter, and we have to care to answer, but what would you do to enable the Norton Road project to move forward?
I didn't know anything about the Norton Road project.
It's affordable housing. Can any of the trustees answer?
I'm somewhat familiar with the project as it was presented. I would like to review all of the decisions that have been made and the requests that have been made, and then I would like to see that go forward if possible. That's the affordable housing for our teachers and our nurses and so forth that I'm talking about.
I think it was 26 affordable housing units on 5 acres, and it stalled. It was during the tenure of trustees Erring and Lamb, and it's been in suspended animation ever since. It's a real opportunity to provide good affordable housing for the community. I think everything was in place. If we look at Murakami Gardens, for example, that's a half acre with the same number of units on ALR land. Norton Road is not on ALR land, it's adjacent to it. They were providing all the environmental buffers. Murakami Gardens was enabled. There are no environmental buffers between it and the neighbouring ALR land. There are no serious issues with Norton Road. The file should be called in and it needs to be seriously reviewed and expedited.
And that's now I'll have to exercise my discretion and consider the event over. I'd like to thank you all for coming. It's been a very interesting evening. And personally, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Oh yeah, and could we have as much help as possible to stack up the chairs?